Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrtakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrtakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Asamaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirihe. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil. And loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 13th day of June, 2022, in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 5, the Creative Impetus, Chapter 18, the prayers offered to the Lord by the residents of Jambu Dweep. Text number 34. Now, I like the way Radhashyam did this. Actually, we can all chant the verse. So I'll just chant one or two words, and you can repeat. And then I'll read the synonyms myself. If you just like that, and then I'll speed things up. Okay. Uttareshu cha kurushu Bhagavān yajna purushaha kritavaraha rupa aste tam tu devi haisha buhu saha kurubhir askalita bhakti yonekopadhavati imam cha paramam upanishadam avartayati. Okay, I'll go through the synonyms. Uttareshu on the northern side, cha also, Kurusha in the tract of land known as Kuru, Bhagavān, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yajna Purushaha, who accepts all results of sacrifices. Krita Varaha Rupaha, having accepted the form of a boar, Aste, exists eternally. Tam, him, tu, certainly, Devi, the goddess, ha, certainly, Esha, this, Buhu, planet Earth, Saha, along with Kurubihi, the inhabitants of the land known as Kuru, Askalita, unfailing, Bhakti Yogena, by devotional service, Upadhavati, worship, Imam, this, cha, also, Padamam Upanishadam, the Supreme Upanishad, parentheses, the process by which one can approach the Lord. Avartayati, chants again and again for the purpose of practice. Shukadeva Goswami said, Dear King, the Supreme Lord in his boar incarnation, who accepts all sacrificial offerings, lives in the northern part of Jambudweep. There, in the tract of land known as Uttarakuru Varsha, Mother Earth and all the other inhabitants worship him with unfailing devotional service by repeatedly chanting the following Upanishad mantra. And I'll chant this myself. Om Namo Bhagavate Mantra Tattva Lingaya Yajna Kratave Mahadvara Vyabhaya Mahapurushaya Namaha Karma Shuklaya Tri-yugaya Namaste. Translation. O Lord, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you as the gigantic person. Simply by chanting mantras, we shall be able to understand you fully. You are yajna, sacrifice, and you are the kratu, ritual. Therefore, all the ritualistic ceremonies of sacrifice are part of your transcendental body, and you are the only enjoyer of all sacrifices. Whoever puts the water in here, leave a little more space at the top. Otherwise, you tend to spill it. What was I in? You are the only enjoyer of sacrifices? Okay. Your form is composed of transcendental goodness. You are known as tri-yuga, because in Kaliyuga you appeared as a concealed incarnation, and because you always fully possess the three pairs of opulences. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the incarnation for this age of Kali, as confirmed in many places throughout the Puranas, the Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Upanishads. The summary of his appearance is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 699, as follows. Kaliyuga līlāvatāra nakare Bhagavān, ataeva tri-yuga kahi tar nam. In this age of Kali, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavān, does not appear as a līlāvatāra, an incarnation to display pastimes. Therefore, he is known as tri-yuga. Unlike other incarnations, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears in this age of Kali as a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, he is called a concealed incarnation, or channāvatāra. And if you would permit me, there's a famous verse about this, which is one of Prahlad's prayers. And I'm just going to read that. and the purport. It's a short purport. This one is Srimad Bhagavatam 7:9-38. Ittam tri-yuga Rishi Dravida Dasa lokan vibhavayasi hangsi jagat patipan dharmam mahapurusha pasi yugana vrittam channakalo yadabhavas tri-yugota sattvam. In this way, my Lord, Sringadev, you appear in various incarnations as a human being, an animal, a great saint, a demigod, a fish, or a tortoise, thus maintaining the entire creation in different planetary systems and killing the demoniac principles. According to the age, O my Lord, you protect the principles of religion. In the age of Kali, however, you do not assert yourself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore you are known as tri-yuga, or the Lord who appears in 3 yugas. In this rather short purport. As the Lord appeared just to maintain Lord Brahma from the attack of Madhu and Kaitaba, he also appeared in order to protect the great devotee Prahlad Maharaj. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya appeared, this is a money quote, therefore, similarly, Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to protect the fallen souls of the Kaliyuga. There are 4 yugas or millenniums, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. In all the yugas but the Kaliyuga, the Lord appears in various incarnations and asserts himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But although Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appears in Kaliyuga, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he never asserted himself as such. On the contrary, whenever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was addressed as being as good as Krishna, he blocked his ears with his hands, denying his identity with Krishna, because he was playing the part of a devotee. Lord Chaitanya knew that in the Kali Yuga there would be many bogus incarnations pretending to be God, and therefore he avoided asserting himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, in many Vedic literatures, especially in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:5-32. We can all chant together, those who know it. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam Sangopangasta Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hisumeda Saha. In the Kali Yuga, intelligent men worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was always accompanied by his associates such as Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, and Srivas. The entire Krishna consciousness movement is based on the principles of the Sankirtan movement inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, one who tries to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of the Sankirtan movement knows everything perfectly. He is Sumedas, a person with substantial intelligence. Om Jnana Timbarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, the boar incarnation. Now, my understanding, there's 2 boar incarnations. And in the 3rd canto, these stories are kind of joined. There's the boar incarnation who killed Hiranyaksha, and there's the boar incarnation who lifted up the ocean, the earth, which had fallen to the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. And I remember this is one of the first chapters I worked on when I started working at the press, this 3rd canto, the battle between Lord Boar and Hiranyaksha. And needless to say, it was very fascinating. And how the boar incarnation is like personified sacrifice. And I remember when he came out of the ocean and he took the water off, and all that water fell on the witnessing demigods. They felt that they had gotten like the water we get on our head after an arati. Be blessed by that. And it's a very fascinating pastime. This battle between Lord Boar and Hiranyaksha. Why did he take the form of a boar? He needed to uproot that earth which had fallen down into the mud, so it was suitable. Why did he take the form of a fish? Because there was a big inundation, and in order to save the Vedas, Satyabhata Muni, he had to take that form, save the Vedas. So these and Shringadeva, of course, we know, because Hiranyakashipu had gotten so many blessings from Brahma that in order to kill him, he had to fulfill all those blessings. So he wasn't a man, he wasn't a lion, he wasn't inside, wasn't outside, and so forth. You know the story. So these līlāvatāras are especially suited to certain pastimes, to certain functions. But they're all Krishna. They're all, as mentioned in the first verse you read, they're full with the three opulences, the three pairs of opulences. Those are, what is it? Aishvaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashakrisha jnana vairagyasya shannam bhaga itingina. So full opulence, full power, full fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. Now, they don't, Krishna is the one who manifests all of those, the 64 qualities of God in full, especially those last four. And yes, you know, Lord Nrsingadev and Varaha and Kurma, they're very beautiful, but not as beautiful as Krishna. And the other opulences, they don't manifest, the other, especially the four. You know, you don't see Lord Boa trying to play a flute, you know. So, but they have them. In other words, they're playing a part. They're for a certain lila. And this is why they're offering these prayers. It says the goddess of fortune is offering prayers and all of them. Because they know that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But I wanted to focus a little bit on what Prabhupada mentions in the purport and when I expanded by reading the verse by Prahlad Maharaj. And that is the significance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, playing the part of his own devotee. Now, Prabhupada says he never asserted himself. That's why he says he hasn't asserted himself as a Supreme. But we know that he did reveal himself, and especially during the Mahaprakash. Was it 28 hours? I forget, always get 26. I think it was 28 hours. In Srivas Thakur's home. And where he sat down on the altar, he received all the worship as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he even enacted some of the pastimes. Wasn't there a thing with Lord Bohr where he was carrying Murari Gupta? And so there was no question for his intimates, for those who were very much internal, this was not a public thing. Because they knew he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so he wanted to reciprocate in that way. It was very ecstatic, obviously. But in public, he would always deny that. As Prabhupada mentions, he would shut his ears and say, no, a living entity, a regular human being should not be addressed as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because that's rampant in this Kaliyuga. There's so much cheating going on that people claim, because people are so ignorant, and they say, yes, you can worship me as God, and Bhagavān Shri this, Bhagavān Shri that, And this is a tremendous detriment to the people, to be worshiping someone who's not God. It's the cheaters and the cheated. So Lord Chaitanya came to give us, to show the activities, and of course to give the teachings of pure devotion to Krishna. He took that role. But he also had this internal reason. There's the external and internal reason. The external reason, these are explained nicely at the beginning of the CC. Anarpita charim chadat karunayavatirna kalao samapi hitamunnato dvararasam sabhakti shriyam hari pudata sundara jitika dhamma sandipita sada vidiyakanda days pudata vakshachi nandana. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is resplendent with the hue of molten gold, be forever situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. I'm sorry, I think I missed it. Resplendent with the hue of molten gold. He has appeared in this age of Kali to give what no other incarnation has ever given before. The highest, most brilliant, effulgent mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. So this is his external reason, is to give the Sankirtan movement, to uplift the Kali Yugites to the highest level of praying bhakti. It always reminds me of that line in the Bible, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. We're the last. We've hung around, we're in Kaliyuga, and there's a whole chapter, a couple of chapters in the 12th canto describing the evils of Kaliyuga. I just heard Prabhupada was speaking on it this morning in the lecture I hear every morning. We get a little summary in the beginning, in the first chapter of Bhagavatam. Prayanalpayashaksabhya kalavasmin yage jana manda samanda matayo manda bhagya yupadra. Manda is not a good word. It means you're lazy, you're slow, you're misguided. So first thing is, for the most part, people are very short-lived. And if they're long-lived, they may live to 100. Really, very rare, which is 1/10 of what they used to live in Dwapara Yuga, which is 1/10 of these people live 100,000 years and 10,000. So we live a mere 100 years maximum. And even if we live a long time, we're very lazy in the matter of spiritual life. I mean, the Sankirtan movement is based on going out and finding those few people who are a little interested, who you try to fan the spark. Give them a book, let them hear the holy name, take some prasadam, come to the temple. But look, there's a dozen of us here maximum. And there's, millions of people out there. Of course, there's some online out there. But it's always a great minority who are interested, seriously interested in spiritual life, and to speak of devotional service. And then that's also in this verse, that if you are interested, tsumanda matayo, is that you'll be misguided. There's so many cheaters. That's why Lord Chaitanya didn't insert himself as Bhagavān, because there's so many human beings cheating, So, so then you'll be misguided. And therefore, the people very fortunate, manda bhagya, upadruta, and always disturbed. This is another thing. Prahlad Maharaj said that to his father. What's the best thing you learned today? Remember that verse? Tat sadhumanne asodavarya dehinam sadasambhadvigna dhyama sadgrahat. So this is, in the 2 lines, he's analyzing, his father, who's the best of demons. But all the population is like that. So the main fact or teaching in those 2 lines is that we're always disturbed. Sada samudvigna. Samudvigna means really, really disturbed. Always. Why? Asadgrahat. Because this was in one of the verses we read recently. Asadgrahat means that you're holding on to the impermanent for dear life. But you're cheated by that. You're holding on to this body and things related to the body, which are asat, temporary. But we're permanent. We're looking for permanent security and permanent happiness, right? But you can't find that in the material world. So this grand illusion is going on. And so he's saying, well, what to do? Hitvatmapatam, griyamandakupam. Give up the materialistic family life, which is a great impediment to spiritual life. And these are the words that Harinakasha did not want to hear. Take shelter of Hari. Go to the forest and take shelter of Hari, your arch enemy. So this is an instruction for all of us. But who's ready to do that? No one's ready to go to the forest. Nobody really admits that they're in trouble. So Lord Chaitanya gave this process that, all right, you don't have to go anywhere. Don't do anything different. Just take this chanting. This chant. You can be the most sinful person, ignorant, but try this chanting. You see, it's free. Prabhupada would always point. There's no expenditure. You don't have to be a PhD. And if you take up the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, then eons of karma are eliminated as soon as you chant one name. There's one verse in the 6th canto describes it if you just hear one name, which I always thought was very, very exciting, because you go out on Harinam, and so many people are, they'll just pass you by. Few people may stop, very few people may chant. But anyone who's hearing, you have to be one of those really unfortunate people who's blocking his ears, which happens sometimes. But just hear one name, and it just gets rid of so much karma. So the point is, it's so powerful, the process, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Kevalam, that anyone from any position, what is that verse? Devahuti says to Kapila Dev. How's it? Ho bada That's ho badashra pachoto gadiyan hadjigvagre vartate namatubhyam te pustapuste juhavusastaraya brahmanacho namagunandiyete. How wonderful it is, my Lord, that even one born in the family of dog eaters, Swapacha, is very glorious if just on the tip of his tongue the name is being chanted. It doesn't say that he has to chant purely or whatever, just somehow chanting. Yajjigvaga vartate nama te pustaba. They must have in previous life performed all kinds of sacrifices, studied the Vedas, lived at the holy places. In other words, you're so fortunate in this age just to take up the chanting, and this is the central teaching practice that Lord Chaitanya came to give. So I love this line that he's come in order to protect. Lord Chaitanya has come in order to protect the fallen souls of the Kaliyuga. Because as you analyze these līlāvatāras, you see that they're saving the earth and saving the Vedas, and Lord Nrsingadev annihilating Hiranyakashipu. So they're doing this for the benefit of the residents of the world. In other words, they needed protection from big demons or the flood, whatever it was, And so they're doing that. So how does Lord Chaitanya appear in order to protect the fallen souls of the Kali Yuga? Well, without the chanting, without any hint of bhakti yoga, we're doomed. We're completely condemned. We're not going to take the Bhagavad Gita out of the library, which I did back in, or buy the little Penguin edition, and somehow be enlightened, or most importantly, change our whole life and practice yoga seriously. You see, you may learn a little here, a little there, but it's not going to help. This is why I just finished reading for the first time, although it's been out for a long time, Mukunda Maharaj's book, Miracle on 22nd Avenue. And it was, I always remark, because Prabhupada came just at the key time. Krishna arranged 1965 and then 66, and this is just when the whole hippie era was coming together. And 67 was the summer of love. He went to San Francisco. It was just arranged like that. If he had come 5 years earlier or 5 years later, it would have been a whole different thing, because that summer of love was very transient. I went in 1968. I drove across the country in a stolen car. I didn't steal it. I learned halfway across by my friend, oh, this is a stolen car, by the way. Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. Anyway, this is somehow Krishna protected me. So there I got to, I was walking along in the Haight-Ashbury, and there was still hippies and everything there, but things had changed. I don't know if you know the history of the Altamont concert, where there was some deaths, and everyone was they weren't taking acid so much as taking methamphetamine. It was a whole different mood. And so that openness, to spiritual life and expanding your consciousness and the whole thing, that was a fertile ground for Srila Prabhupada to plant the seeds of bhakti. And once he had some serious practitioners who could then also plant the seeds, and the movement spread like wildfire. And that whole miraculous trip to England and meeting George Harrison, all of this was, to me anyway, obviously Krishna's arrangement to spread. So this is Lord Chaitanya's mercy, that Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya to give us this simple, easy process of devotional service. And even then, we're not able to follow it completely strictly often. But it's feasible. It's feasible for anyone who's serious about devotion, about solving the problems of life. And this is why the knowledge is so important, why the books are so important. Because it's one thing to come to a kirtan, take prasadam, and then not hear anyone or read a book. It's good, it's great, but it's very, very hard to become serious as a devotee until you read, these are the real problems of life: birth, old age, disease, and death. And I'm an eternal soul, and I suddenly realize how dangerous my lifestyle was, and so it's essential to have the knowledge, to have the classes, have the books, and so forth. Prabhupada, gave his life for that, writing so early in the morning and managing everything. So we're very fortunate to have this. And now we learn here that he's the covered avatar. And then there's this key verse, Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam. To have the divinity of Lord Chaitanya corroborated by this verse in the Bhagavatam and others in different shastras, the Upanishads. There's a whole chapter in, I think, chapter 3 of the Adi Leela, if I'm not mistaken, where it's that Lord Chaitanya's Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because when you read the Mangalacharan, the verses at the beginning of the CC that introduce it, it's the second verse, or maybe the third verse. Yes, third verse. Yadadvaitam brahmo panashadi tatapyasatanabhayatmantaryami purushahati sosyam shivibhavaha. Shadaisharya purno yahya Bhagavān sasvayamayam chaitanyat Krishna jagadibhatatatvam padameha. So say this verse is basically saying Lord Chaitanya is the same Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahman effulgence is but the effulgence of his body. The super soul is but his expansion. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I remember when I was revising kept finding a few mistakes in the CC. That was one of the verses there. Probably, the word he just said he is this, but the word Lord Chaitanya didn't appear in it. Look at the old CC; it's not in the verse. So this was at the last possible minute. I was in Mayapur, '96 for the centennial, and the book was just being printed, and we had what we call blueprints. It was kind of a last chance to look at, And I read that. I'm reading. How much can I read? But I read the beginning of the Adi Leela and said, "Oh my God, this should have Lord Chaitanya's name in there." And so I was able to fix that. If you'll find, you'll see it. It has it. So that's a key verse. I think it's Subdhamana wrote that verse. And then there's this explanation of why Lord Chaitanya here, who he is, what's his ontological position, and why he comes. I find the same thing in Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter. And so there's that external reason, which is for us to spread the Sankirtan mission. But then there's also the internal reason, right? There's that story about Lord Chaitanya's in this, Lord Krishna's in the spiritual world in Dwarka, and there's this like mirror-like, sometimes it says a floor or a pillar, and he saw himself. He says, "Oh, this wonderful beauty I have, but I can't really relish it as myself. I want to experience it from the point of view of Srimati Radharani, through the lens of her unparalleled love that she experiences." So, what is it? First word? Radha Krishna thing. Radha Krishna pranaya vikritir ladani shakti rasmat. Ekatmana pipabuhra deha bhedam gatauta. No, that's a different verse. Shri Radhaya pranaya mahima kidisho vanayaiva svajo yena svajasyena buddhamadurima kidisho vamadiya saukyam chasa manonubhavata kidisham metilobhat tadbhavaja samajanisha shigarba sindhu harindu. So these are the 3 reasons, internal reasons. First is, he wants to understand the glory of Srimati Radharani's love. Shri Radhaya pranaya mahima, the glory of the love. He wants to understand his own factors, such as the beauty, from her point of view, through the lens of her love. And he wants to understand the happiness, the bliss, unparalleled bliss she's feeling in loving him and being loved by him. And with these 3 reasons, internal reasons, he appeared from the womb of Shati Devi as the moon appeared from the ocean, like that. So there's whole chapters explaining that, chapter 4 especially, of the Adi Leela, the intricacies of all of that. So this is the channāvatāra. He's not being worshipped there by these prayers because he's unknown. In other words, the ones who appeared, the Bora incarnation, the Matsya avatar, and the Shingadev, we had those wonderful prayers by Prahlad Maharaj to start off. These avatars are being worshipped by their specific devotees, and so it's all wonderful, and it's just expanding our understanding of the glory of Krishna, that he can appear in all these different forms for specific purposes. When he appears as Krishna himself in Vrindavan, he's doing that specifically for the enlightenment of his devotees, and to renew the remembrance of his most attractive pastimes. Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusam deyamastataha bhajate tadrishi krida yashu tatparo bhavet. This is another verse about the reason why Lord Krishna appears. Out of compassion for my devotees, Anugrahaya bhaktanam, I appear in my original human form, manusam deyamastataha, and I enact the pastimes that are going on in the spiritual world, the replicas of them. And once having heard them, one should surrender to him. One should become his devotee. There's an imperative in there. In other words, this renews the pastimes, so that the Bhagavatam is written, and we have all the subject matter to hear and chant about Krishna. So that's the reason for Krishna's appearance. And Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya, is also appearing for the benefit of his devotees. Is that we're all the devotees of Krishna, and some of us didn't know that. None of us knew that until Prabhupada came. But the fortunate who had some background, who were receptive to the message, are finding that it seems natural, and our previous life, it seems like some other existence. Like something that we are thankful for escaping from. I know I am. So all of this is something that we should relish, and we should know the different avatars and their wonderful glories, because it helps us to broaden our understanding of Krishna's glories, that he can appear in all these forms for these specific reasons, always to save people of the earth, always for the benefit, and to enliven his devotees. And especially in Lord Chaitanya's appearance, he has those internal reasons also that we can relish, and as we chant Hare Krishna, we can remember those pastimes where Lord Chaitanya was in all those wonderful kirtans, and see the standard, and try to enter into the mysteries of the understanding. So I thought I'd share you with that. And if there's any comments or questions, I can entertain them now. Okay, he's the senior questioner. I'm sorry? No kidding. I thought you were like a 10-year devotee. He said that, I know, Mukunda is senior to him. All right. Oh, Zoom question too, okay.
I'm not sure why I don't know this, but why isn't Kalki considered a līlāvatāra? I mean, okay, we don't have his pastimes, you don't revel in his pastimes, but much. But why doesn't he count as a Kaliyuga avatar again?
Isn't Kalki part of that list in the second canto? At the end.
Well, I mean, if one reason why he's tri-yuga is because he doesn't
because of the Kaliyuga.
Yeah.
Acha.
Because if he doesn't appear, if he only appears as a covered incarnation in Kaliyuga, but he does appear as Kalki, which is, yeah.
I don't know. You know? Oh, right. Līlāvatāra. So Kalki is the Yuga avatar. In other words, or is it? Kalki is Leela. Okay, so the idea is that the Yuga avatar is the one that's covered. So Lord Chaitanya is not a Leela avatar; he's a Yuga avatar. But because he's covered, it's said that there's tri-yuga, meaning that there's a Yuga avatar only in the Satya, Treta, and Dwapara. So Kalki is a Leela avatar, which, yeah, quite a
See,
lila.
and then in this purport, though, it's saying that in this age of Kali, the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not appear as a līlāvatāra. So it seems that if Kalki is a līlāvatāra, then that wouldn't make sense. But if he is a yuga avatar, it also doesn't quite make sense. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Just saying, in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, it's taken from one of the purports in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Prabhupada lists many different avatars and what category they're in, so you can look that up.
Yeah. Well, what Mukunda is pointing out is that in this age of Kali, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavān, does not appear as a līlāvatāra. But we just said that he does, as Kalki. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll have to, that could be a possible correction. I doubt it, but anyway. Yeah, because the distinction between Yuga and līlāvatāra seems to have been conflated. Go ahead.
So I've been recently listening to a series of lectures by Shiva Ram Maharaj. He's talking about this same thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, a little louder.
I have to speak louder. Okay, so I've recently been listening to a series of classes by Shiva Ram Maharaj.
Yeah.
And he's been talking about this topic, just the identity of Lord Chaitanya.
Uh-huh.
But he makes an interesting point in relationship to Navadvip. Navadvip is non-different from Vrindavan, and Narottam Das Thakur talks about this. But in Vrindavan, all offenses are accepted. Like anything, even just like a tiny mistake that you make, it's considered to be an offense. So you have to be like 6 Goswamis through and through 24/7 in Vrindavan in order to fully access it. But he makes the point that in Navadvip, those offenses aren't accepted because it's Lord Chaitanya's abode. So Lord Chaitanya's mercy is so overwhelming that even if Kaliyuga residents come to Navadvip, they can get the benefits of Vrindavan without the offenses that come along with their, previous condition.
Now I know why so many more devotees want to live in Navadvip. Thank you. That's an important point. Yeah. The mercy of Lord Nityananda there, they don't accept any offenses. Yes.
I had a few questions on points you made.
Please.
So why the pronoun he instead of Lord Chaitanya? Did you specify? You said we should change the he's to Lord Chaitanya?
No, don't change anything.
Okay.
In that third verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yeah. All right, I got this thing here. So, see.
Is it a question of the pronoun he? Because
well, I'll read the verse. Here's the way it read for let's see, 20 years, from 75 on till 95. What the Upanishads describe as, you listen carefully, when the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body. And the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. You see the problem with that? You got a couple of he's and another
you can't
him.
Clarify who the subject.
There's no antecedent. Yeah. It doesn't say Lord Chaitanya, which is the last line of the verse. There's Na Chaitanyat Krishna Jagati Padatattvam.
Okay.
So, but now it says Lord Chaitanya.
And then, because in the Holy Bible, the Old Testament is always speaking of a prophet that's to come, right? They're saying a Savior, and Christians believe that Christ fulfills that prophecy, that the Savior will come. But the Jewish tradition says, no, we're still waiting for that prophet.
You're still waiting?
Yeah, that's why they're not accepting Christ per se as the one who's fulfilling the scriptures in the Old Testament, saying that a prophet will come, the Son of Man. So the Srimad Bhagavatam accurately predicts thousands of years ago that Lord Chaitanya will come.
That's what the verse is. Krishna Varnam Tisha Krishnam. Sangopangasabha. Yeah.
I mean, that proves it right there, right? I mean, they didn't just pull that out of thin air. The Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken a long time before Lord Chaitanya. It's describing him very accurately, when he'll come and what he'll look like.
And I like to point out a verse that appears a few verses later, which is not nearly as famous, but which is very encouraging. Kaling sabhadiyantya gunagyasar bhaginaha yatra sankirtanenaiva sarva swarta bilabhyate. You know that one? No, that's from the Bhagavatam. That's a few verses after Krishna Varnam, Tisha Krishna. I mean, that's from the 11th canto. So what this says is that those who are Aryans, and what is an Aryan? We've been from the Bhagavad Gita. Those who really know and practice the spiritual values of life. In other words, that's Prabhupada's system. So, in other words, those who really, and it's mentioned, gunagya, who understand the essence of things, sadabhaginaha, really, they worship this Kaliyuga, in which Lord Chaitanya appeared. Because in this Kaliyuga, just by practicing Sankirtan, which is so easy, one can fulfill all one's goals in life, sarva svarta abhilabyate, the goals of the soul. To break out of birth and death, go back to Godhead, regain our original relationship with Krishna, and to immerse ourselves in an eternal ocean of happiness. That's the goal of the soul. And just by Sankirtan, which is feasible for everybody. So this Kali Yuga is very special. We should take fully advantage of it.
And then that leads right into the final point that I was trying to follow up on that you made, was that we're stuck here. We're like, why are we still in Kali Yuga, right? We're left over here. It made me think of this then. So I always hear these previous yugas, and wow, they're so amazing. Oh man, if I had that long, I for sure would get out of here, if I had all that facility. But I'm still stuck around here. So does that imply that I've been reincarnating in this universe through all of those yugas since the beginning?
And maybe not even as a human being.
But I for sure started when this universe was manifest in that beginning yuga, and I've been kind of failing the test ever since then.
Yeah, as soon as Mahavishnu, glances all the living entities who didn't make it back to Godhead, and they would.
Well, that's okay. So you can bounce universes.
Could be another universe.
Okay.
Yeah, we've just been around in the material world in ignorance, suffering like crazy.
Okay.
And now we've got a human form of life in the Kali Yuga. We should cash in that lottery ticket.
So it's not good to lament that I'm not in a previous yuga and would have better facilities?
No. You're in the best yuga right now.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yes. We're very, very fortunate. Not to be in the yuga, but to have contacted Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya in this way. Yeah. Okay.
There's another point about Lord Chaitanya and how clear of who he is. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami spends an entire chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita just establishing the shastric position of who Lord Chaitanya is.
Third chapter, Adi Leela.
I think it's the second chapter.
Second chapter?
Yeah, second chapter. Because the third chapter is the external reasons.
Okay, maybe you're right. Yes, there's a whole purport here with Bhakti Siddhanta Swami, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, is quoting this Upanishad, that Upanishad, Mahabharata. We hear about that in those. You find that sannyasa, Krishna is a sannyasi, the golden sannyasi. That's in Mahabharata, and so there's all kinds of evidence of what Chaitanya is. And then the main evidence, Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you have faith. No question about it. Chaitanya Bhagavatam. Okay, we had something online. Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, thank you very much. Dandavat Pranams. My question is, may I?
Please.
Thank you, Prabhu. You're very kind. My question is, why do I need to free my mind from nonsense in order to understand God in full?
That's a good question. The mind is the best friend of the living entity and his worst enemy as well. You recognize that, right, from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So, when you analyze it, you realize that what is that verse? Mama vangsho jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana manakshashthanindine prakritistani karshati. That we're Krishna's eternal parts and parcels, means we're his eternal servants. That's our nature, but we've completely forgotten it. We've been, since time immemorial, we've been struggling with the six senses, which include the mind. And that mind is explained in subsequent verses of the 15th chapter. The mind, intelligence, and ego, they don't perish when this gross body, gross in many ways, perishes, right? But though that mind, intelligence, and ego, that carries us to the next body. And if we've developed, the usual obsessions and desires and fears and all the karma and everything you develop in the Kaliyuga, an ordinary person, then that's going to be an inauspicious body, likely a subhuman body. So the whole process is purification of the mind. One devotee wrote me a letter and said, "What's the purpose of tapasya, or where does suffering come in?" He's comparing it to the Bible. How important suffering is, improve your love that way. And the first thing I thought of, as soon as I think of that within Bhakti, is Rishabhde's famous verse, is that we want to be happy forever, ever increasing happiness with not even a tinge of misery, right? Everyone wants that. But immediately he says, "Oh, that's impossible, so let me just, compromise and get this and get that and somehow enjoy some sense gratification." No, we want that because that's our original nature. But in order to achieve that platform, we have to purify our senses and our mind and our entire being. And the process is through divine tapasya, not just tapasya, because tapasya gives you power. It can give you demonic power, like Hiranyakashipu. Tapasya itself, you have to exceed in anything. But if it's not bhakti, then you're just burying yourself more in Maya. So tapodivyam putrakayena sattvam shudyed. By this different tapasyas, which is what we're given in this age, even though it's minor, there's still tapasyas to perform. You'll purify your existence. You see, purify sattvam shudyed. And what's the purpose of that? Yasmad brahma saukyam tvanantam. You'll come to the point where you can enjoy unending happiness, unending bliss. As opposed to the flickering maya sukhaya, which simply buries us more and more in illusion and misery. So that's why one cannot perceive or understand the Lord with our present senses. But if we begin devotional service, beginning with the tongue, chanting the holy name, hearing the holy name, and tasting prasadam, then eventually, by purification, the Supreme will reveal himself. That's the whole point. That Krishna sees our sincere efforts to try to practice, and then he reveals himself proportionally. So without that effort to perform austerities and purification through the process of bhakti yoga, there's no hope. There's no hope because our contaminated senses and mind, the mind especially, will bring us back again and again. And once we lose the human form, it's hopeless. We have to wait again to come to the human form. So you understand?
Oh, completely, Prabhu. As usual, very helpful.
Thank you.
Breathtaking answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Now that the pandemic is ending, we can use that word again. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Oh?
It's a minor question. Why in this 28th cycle of Yuga is there a reversal of the Treta and the Kaliyuga? The Dwapara Yuga? Well, I discovered that an interesting fact about Treta and Dwapara. Treta doesn't mean the third. It means that there are three of those four: cleanliness, austerity, mercy, and one more. See, that's why we're in Kali Yuga. I forgot. So that's why it's three. Truthfulness. And the Dwapara, there's only two left. That's why it's two. I remember reading somewhere, though, some reference about...
Yeah. Well, I think let's try to find that, and we'll try to figure out what that's all about. Because I was always wondering, Treta, Treta's obviously third, but no, there's three of those, four of the principles of religion still extant. In Kali Yuga, there was always one, and it's dying. Truthfulness, you can see all around you. It's craziness. Hare Krishna. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Hare Bol.